guys, welcome back to part 2 of the Build a Weather app in Swift tutorial. In the last video, we went through building this app that you see here, which pulls your current location and gets the daily and hourly weather. So far, we're rendering the daily weather, and now we want to add a custom cell leveraging a collection view to show a horizontal hourly forecast as well, similar to the native hour forecast shown in the weather app built into your iPad or iPhone. So the way we're going to do that is actually fairly simple. We have a table view cell here that we've called hourly table view cell. And this table view cell is going to have a collection view that will scroll horizontally, and that collection view will be configured with our actual hourly forecast data, which in this case will be a hour mark and a temperature. Actually, let's just use a temperature for the purposes of this demo just to make things a little faster. So let's come on in here and add a outlet for a collection view. And we want to extend a couple of protocols. We want the delegate and the UI collection view data source. If we can spell correctly today. There we go, data source. And we also want the UI collection view flow delegate, I believe it's called. Delegate flow layout, that's what it's called. This one allows you, the flow layout delegate allows you to specify a size for each item in the cell. So we're gonna bring in the functions that are required by the data source by clicking fix next to the error that pops up. And let's paste them down here. The first one is number of items in the collection view, and we're gonna return models.count. And this one is gonna be, this function is the actual cell. So we're just gonna return a UI collection view cell. And we haven't created this yet, this models property thing. So let's actually delete all this commented code and come up here and add a array for models. And it's gonna be a hourly weather entry array. We're gonna add a configure function on this cell, which is a table view cell. And we're going to configure with an array of hourly weather entries. We're going to say self.models equals models. And we're going to say collection view reload data. We're also going to implement collection view size for item at index path. So this actually returns how big you want each of your cells to be. And we want it to be a CG size.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. You can also try.
And let's ignore my Siri that decided to turn on. So CG size, and this is going to be a width and height of 100 by 100. And let's see, looks like we have an error here. And the reason we have an error here is because we can't spell today. So let's make sure the spelling on that matches, otherwise we're going to hit an issue. And we also need to set up the collection view firstly. And let's put a space before this. So the collection view needs a delegate and a data source. And we also need to register a collection view cell. So we're going to say register a nib for a cell reuse identifier. So now we haven't created a collection view cell, so let's do that. Let's create a folder. Collection view cell, new file. It's going to be a subclass of a UI collection view cell. We'll call this wether collection view cell. Check the box, create it. In here, similar to the other cells that we created, let's add what we need in terms of registration, which is an identifier, which is the same name as the cell, a static function, which will return a nib with a name. Name is the same thing as identifier, and bundle is nil. We also want a couple of outlets in here. The first outlet is going to be for an image view, actually, to be more specific. And then we want a temp label. And finally, let's add a configure function in here. And it's going to take in a single hourly weather entry. And we are going to say self.temp_label.text equals model.temperature and wrap that in a string. And we're going to say self.iconImageView.image UI image named. And again, let's stick with clear to start off with this. Let's also set its content mode to scale aspect fit. And let's see, let's go set up the nib for this collection view cell. So let's come in here and let's set the background color of this to clear, which I think it is already. Let's bring in a label, which is going to be at the bottom of our cell. It's going to be 0, 0, 0 with a height of 50. And it's going to be centered. We are going to bring in a UI image view, drop it on in, and this one is going to be, we want this one, 0, 0, 0, and 0, like so. Let's make sure we connect our outlets. So first we want to connect this icon image view to the image view, and we want to connect this temp label to our UI label. And last but not least, in here, let's paste in our identifier, which we entered on the actual Swift file. That concludes the collection view cell. Let's go back to the hourly table view cell. And in here, let's register that cell. So I think we called it, what did we call it? We should have it pop up here. Wether collection view cell, nib. And let's see, we need to do the wether collection view cell identifier. For the cell for item function for the collection view, we need to dequeue this cell like so. So we want to dequeue with an identifier, which is this cell with an identifier for this index path as this cell. The next line, we're going to configure the cell with the current model in the array. And lastly, let's return said cell. So we went through this super fast. I'm going to do a review once we get this up and running. So let's compile, hit Command B, and we shouldn't have any errors. And I believe all we need to do now is return the cell in our view controller. So if we come in here, we'll see that we have in number of rows, we're just returning the number of rows in models. So let's actually add a new section, which will be number of sections, and let's return 2. And for this models business, we're going to actually update this to say if section is 0, return 1, otherwise return models count. This return 1 is because we want one cell that is a collection table view cell. For the cell for row and index path, we are going to say if index path dot section is 0, do everything in this block, otherwise continue. And we're going to come in here and we're going to dequeue a cell for collection view or collection table view cell, I think we called it. Actually, hourly table view cell, I think, is what we called it, with its identifier like so. And let's dequeue this as the appropriate cell. The configure function here is not going to take this model because this array holds the daily models. We want to actually hold the hourly. So we're going to come up here and add another property at the very top of this class for hourly models, which will have hourly wether entries. And in our function where we fetch the actual data, let's make sure that we assign this property, and it's going to be results.hourly.data. And when we call that configure function, we can pass in hourly models. Hit Command B. Hopefully we didn't screw that up. And let's hit Command R and see what we get. So it looks like we're crashing because this collection view is nil. And that's actually expected because I forgot to set up the hourly table view cell nib. So let's come in here and let's add a collection view. And let's connect the outlet to the collection view by coming into here and dragging from this outlet to the collection view. Let's also add some constraints. And lastly, let's make sure we have our cell identifier set in here, which looks like we don't. So let's go back to the class, grab the identifier, and let's put it in here. Hit Command R one last time. And all right, cool. So we've got something going on. We've got our new cell, but it looks like it's vertically scrollable when it should be horizontal. So the way we can fix that is by clicking this collection view and changing this to be horizontal. Command R one more time. And now we have our daily weather down here, and we have our horizontal hourly forecast in here. So that's essentially what we wanted to do. Let's get rid of this white background color, and the way we can do that is by setting this background color to clear, as well as the collection views color to clear for the background, if I'm not mistaken. Hit Command R. And now we have our horizontal scrolling hourly forecast. So if we look at the temperatures, we'll see that we start off higher and we go a little lower and lower. And the reason for this is that it is the evening time, rather nighttime at this point, over in Cupertino in California. So as the night progresses, it'll get colder, and then the temperature will eventually start coming back up as the next morning starts. And there you have it. That is part two of your weather application, and you just saw that this flashed to white, and that has to do with an issue related to the table view cell. But we're not going to fix it for the purposes of this video. Now that we've set up the majority of this app, we can always spend hours upon hours fine-tuning the user interface look and feel. So with that being said, I want to wrap up by asking you guys hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Hopefully you found this video informative and understand all the pieces that go into making an app like this. Drop a comment down below if you have any questions. Subscribe if you're new. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.